Greetings and welcome to the debut episode of 3 Night Weekend from SIFTD.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of the site, and I've been covering games and entertainment for over 20 years across publications like GameSpot, Tech TV, G4, Game Trailers, Spike, and now my own concoction, SIFTD. This new podcast is available to our patrons every Friday morning and will be published for everyone else the following Monday. If you want day one access to the show, head to patreon.com/SIFTD and pledge at least $4 per month. So, what is 3 Night Weekend? Well, it's an audio-only show that runs down all the big releases in gaming, TV, film, music, sports, esports, and more to make sure you're maximizing your time off. But the bulk of the show each week is an interview with a gaming industry icon. We'll certainly talk about video games and the industry at large, but we'll also get to know these people on a much deeper level, and hopefully have a new appreciation for the folks who create, promote, or cover our favorite entertainment medium. To access the free version of the show every Monday, make sure you're subscribed to the SIFTD Radio podcast feed on your favorite app or our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SIFTDGames. We're kicking things off with an old friend. Marcus Beer was my co-host for the Invisible Walls podcast for many, many years and has extensive experience in the journalism, PR, and development sides of the industry. Well, since this is our first ever episode of 3 Night Weekend, I could not think of a better person to come on a debut show on SIFTD than the legendary Marcus Beer. What's up, Marcus? How are you?
Wow. How many people turned you down?
0. You were the first person I asked, Marcus. I think based on our history, I think a lot of people want to hear from you. You've kind of gone a little underground since the Game Trailers days. And if people aren't following your Twitter feed every day, they may have no idea what you're up to these days. And so I wanted to touch base with you. And since this is the first episode of 3 Night Weekend, I want everyone to know that this isn't a show purely about gaming. Obviously, you probably picked up on that from the earlier portions of the show. But what we really want to do with this show is get under the skin a little bit with some of the people in the industry, learn what makes them tick, learn what makes them excited, maybe outside of games. But, we'll talk about games as well. And very happy and very proud to have Marcus Beer on the show. Marcus, what have you been up to since you left Game Trailers?
Well, I find it funny that you said under the radar because let's face it, at one point I was very nearly 6 feet under the radar.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people know because obviously I did a game face with you after the heart attack.
Yep.
Where we streamed and it was fun. It was about a year I think after the heart attack. But yeah. Yep. 4 years ago, last Thursday, in fact.
Wow. That's a big anniversary for good and bad reasons.
Yeah. It's been a rough week, or rough 7 days. This time last week, I found out my favorite uncle passed away from a heart attack.
I'm sorry to hear that, Marcus. Yeah. All during the anniversary of your heart attack.
Yeah, well, it's strange. I mean, we had bypasses within like 3 months of each other as well, and it was just totally unexpected because the bypass should have.
Yeah, because he just had a bypass. How does that make you feel about your bypass, Marcus?
Well, I mean, does it worry me that there is some freak genetic anomaly in my family's DNA chain that's going to mess with my bypass? It's at the back of my mind, but at the end of the day, I'm a lot younger. I'm a good 26 years younger than my uncle was.
Well, I'll tell you, Marcus, if I get another 26 years on this planet, I'll be pretty happy. So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing they say about the bypass. Having it done so early. I was 49 last summer when I had it done. Mm-hmm. That it should have bought me at least 20 years.
Oh, at least.
At least 20 years, which is good. I mean, I've got to stay off the ciggies, and which 4 years, and it was 4 years and ago. 4 years last Thursday that I had my last cigarette as well.
Congratulations, Marcus. That's no small feat, my brother.
You have no idea how much I miss it. I still miss it.
Oh, you still miss it? Interesting.
Of course.
A lot of people, when they get to your point, will say, "I'm over it now. I don't miss having to wash my clothes every time I wore them. I don't miss." The burns and all that stuff.
No, I don't miss the smell. I don't miss smelling like an ashtray. It was just part of my life where I'd just go and sit in the backyard and I'd think.
Right.
If I wanted to work on a show, I'd go and light a cigarette, walk around to take notes because that's when I do my best thinking. And having to retrain myself to do that with a stick of celery doesn't quite work as well. So I generally tend to do it with pour myself a nice little snifter of scotch, and I'll I figure things out that way. But yeah, what have I been up to? Crikey. I mean,
well, before we go there, how are you feeling, Marcus? My father had a quintuple bypass, and he never had a problem with his heart ever again after that. He ended up dying in a car accident eventually, but his heart was great up until that point. So I think you have some room for optimism there. I think you're going to be okay.
Definitely not. Like recovery's going great. I mean, will I ever wear a bikini again? No, because I've got a.
Will we ever want to see you in a bikini? No,
I'm sure some might have.
Well, your wife, maybe.
There could be an old OnlyFans page in the offing for me there.
Marcus in a Speedo.
But yes, I do have this 8-inch scar right down the center of my chest, which can get a little bit depressing at times. But look, I could just be grateful that it was done when it was done. I mean, I was having chest pains. They admitted me on the Tuesday morning, and this was obviously last May, where the pandemic was ticking along. Thankfully, it was before the first real wave hit Southern California's hospitals.
That is fortunate.
So, yeah, they got me in on the Tuesday morning, and I was going under the knife on Thursday morning, and it was tough because obviously with the pandemic going on, the hospitals were obviously on full protocol, which meant my darling wife, I mean, she dropped me off at the ER on the Tuesday morning and didn't see me again until the following Monday or Tuesday when they wheeled me out.
That's not good for either one of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully FaceTime is a wonderful thing.
That's true.
And my cardiologist has always been amazing. He's actually a neighbor. He lives about a mile and a half away in the same little town that I live in, and we've become friends with him and his wife. And he was talking to my wife daily, keeping her updated. I was on the phone with her as soon as surgery ended. I mean, obviously, I couldn't really talk then because it was just. It was rough, and the recovery, the first 2 months of recovery were rough. There was a couple of unexpected side effects. I actually came out of the hospital with a bacterial infection that basically filled my mouth with ulcers and meant that I couldn't eat or drink.
Oh, gosh. Which is what you need to do to recover.
Which is what I need to do. So the Friday after I came out, they were actually talking about admitting me again. And thankfully, Shauna, my wife, is just amazing. She found a local ear, nose, and throat doctor who said, look, bring him in. We'll treat him. We'll figure it out so he doesn't go back in, because nobody wants to go back into hospital, during a pandemic if they can avoid it. Yep. And, that helped. And I remember actually I hadn't eaten for 2 days. I'd just been sipping water, and the first meal on the way back from the doctors, because she'd given me this thing that had just numbed my throat and numbed all these ulcers. I was like, I don't care if it's naughty. I want a McDonald's. So we stopped at a McDonald's.
Probably not the best choice, but
well, no, I mean, again, it was. I have one of those things once a year, if that.
Yep.
So, I mean, that was it. And then the second dinner that I had was actually sushi.
A kale salad.
No kale. No, my wife sneaks those into my green smoothies every day. But and then this bit. One of the things that they say is that if you have major invasive surgery, your body can go into shock somewhat. And my hair started falling out.
Oh, wow. I wish I had an excuse.
It was certainly disconcerting again, and it seems to have stopped now, and the hair's growing back. My scalp's itching enough, but I mean it's still thinner than it was.
Yep.
But I mean, apart from those minor side effects, to be honest with you, I'm doing great. I mean, the only issues I have with my chest are the long-term damage from the actual heart attack, where the CPR cracked my ribs.
Wow!
I'm not saying my ribs, but my shoulder joint on my left shoulder. So there's nerve damage in there.
Oh wow! I think that's something most people don't even realize is an issue.
Well, when you have a 6'9" fireman battering your chest to keep you alive, it doesn't really coming to the, coming to
worth every nerve, I guess, is a good way to put it.
Yeah, but I mean, they did what they had to do. They saved,
Yep.
they
saved your life.
I can get this fixed once the pandemic's gone. I mean, there's going to be some, a little bit of surgery involved, but apart from that, I'm really lucky. I am so lucky. I mean, there are so many people who can't, especially now as we're in the middle, in the real depths of this pandemic. And, as you know, here in LA County, we're COVID central. I mean, we've had more cases.
I feel like we've been locked down the whole time. Other parts of the country it's come and gone. But for us, it hasn't really changed this whole time. I don't think people in America really appreciate what people in LA have been through with this pandemic.
Well, I think the biggest problem is that, and I don't know if you're allowing swears on this new podcast.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the fucking assholes who won't wear masks.
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm not cutting anybody any slack here. If you can't wear a mask for medical reasons, well, do what I do. Stay the fuck in.
Yeah.
I have been locked into my house on apart from the occasional drive out where we don't go anywhere, or maybe we'll get some drive through.
Yeah.
For almost a year.
I think we all have been. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, most people have, but then you can see packs of cyclists bombing up and down in the streets around where I live, just above Pasadena, and none of them are wearing masks.
Yeah, I will say this: there hasn't been a lot of proof that people have been able to transmit it outside, even in the NFL, where they're yelling at each other from a couple inches away. They're sweating on each other.
Those guys are getting tested every day.
Yeah, but my point is that they had no transmission on the field.
And now we're talking about the new strains, the South African and the UK strains, that basically, if you don't have a mask on, they can project up to 20 feet.
Jeez.
So if you're out walking and somebody on a bike, and I'm just using the cyclists as because not all cyclists, again, a lot of cyclists are wearing masks, but we're seeing, we're having a real problem up here because where I live is up by the trails and it's beautiful countryside.
Yeah.
And if those people pass within 20 feet of you and they're asymptomatic carriers and they're breathing and huffing and puffing, 20 feet, they can actually send those droplets into the air. And the cold weather is not doing anything much about it, because we had like 3 days of cold weather and now it's 66 degrees again. So it's hanging in the air. So, and everybody has said, if you wear a friggin' mask, you're protecting yourself, you're protecting other people. These people who are barricading the vaccination points because Bill Gates is going to inject me with nanobots because he wants to track me. Honestly, I've got a message for them. Bill Gates couldn't give two shits about what you're doing. If you want to, if you don't want to be tracked, well, how about you get rid of your cell phone?
Yeah,
get rid of your DSL.
I don't want to spend any time on this show trying to.
I just want to get
either you believe the science or you don't, and that's really the problem that we've come across. Is there are some people that just don't trust science. And they trust it for other stuff, but they won't trust it for this. It's like they'll take their heart medication.
Wear a goddamn mask. Just wear a goddamn mask, and we'll leave it there. Wear a mask. We'll get through this together, and then we'll all be out. We'll have E3 back again. We'll have PAX.
Yep.
We'll all be able to socialize, get vaccinated when you can, and just do it for everybody else. Be part of the social contract.
Yep.
That's all.
Fair enough.
Let's go on to something else.
Okay. Let's talk about game trailers. Some people may not realize if they just are catching this show out on the wilds of the internet, but Marcus and I were co-hosts on a show called Invisible Walls on game trailers. Some people say it's like the first ever real gaming podcast. I wasn't aware of that, to be perfectly honest with you. When we created the show, I wasn't aware that we were like one of the first ones doing it. I still don't know if that's the case, but I know a lot of people have kind of credited the show with that. Why do you think Invisible Walls was so successful?
It was fun.
Yeah.
And it was always a mix of different people who were very, very knowledgeable.
Yep.
I mean, you'd have Blood, you'd have Damiani, you'd have Brandon, you'd have Brooks Huber, you'd have Ryan, yourself,
Justin
me,
Spear,
Justin. I mean, when you could get
Miguel
Justin
Lopez, yeah,
Miguel as well. Yes, absolutely. But I mean, Justin, I love Justin a bit, but wow, that guy is hard to elicit a real.
I thought he was great on the show, though. He had.
I know he was great, but he's just
from everybody.
He was drier than 3-day-old toast. And like I said, I love the guy and respect the guy. He's fantastic. But he was sometimes, when he was in that mood, what he was like.
Yeah, of course. I worked with him for like 8 years. So, and actually way more than that, because I had worked with him for years before I became the EIC at Game Trailers. So maybe I was just used to him, but I thought he brought something a little different. And I think you're right. I think it was that there were so many personalities that came in and out of the show that it kept it fresh and new almost every week. And then most importantly, I just think that the people that were on the show were just very well informed. They were all people who had worked in the industry at that point for more than 10 years, which now that's not such a big deal. But back then, to have worked in the industry for 10 years was like you were senior. So I think, that helped a lot. People were just really experienced. They're able to look at one game and be able to compare it to like 10 other games that they had played. And I think that's the advantage of being a little older and having a little more experience. And then obviously the whole Game Trailers thing, and we're not going to get into that, but Game Trailers crashed and crumbled. And then I left and started SIFTD. And then you came over and worked with us for a bit right at the beginning of SIFTD.
Yep. It was fun doing Game Face. Sorry. I went through a blip where, well, it wasn't necessarily a blip. It was a couple of years where I just started to fall out of love with the industry.
Yeah. I remember talking to you, and I was like, man, what do I got to do to get Marcus to get back into...
No, it was right around the time that Gamergate took off.
Yeah.
And I was seeing a very toxic aspect of the industry that's now a very toxic... And the Gamergate was not the forerunner.
Oh, yeah, that's been around forever.
Let's just say 86 that right here. And like a lot of people are like, if they'd have shut down Gamergate, the alt-right wouldn't have... No, the alt-right was always coming.
Yeah, and also toxic gamers have been a thing since my first day at GameSpot back in like 1999. Like, this isn't a new... They've just given themselves a name now, and they found themselves a website where they could all congregate and tell each other that they're awesome. That's essentially the change that's happened to me, anyway. Yeah,
and look, the toxic... You find the toxic fan issue in every single item of culture.
Sports, athletics. Yeah, they're almost as bad. Politics, even worse.
Yeah, everything is partisan. Everything is my team is better than your team. Everything is tribal. And look, I saw what I was doing with Annoyed Gamer, and I thought at first I was doing more good, so like trying to be a voice for the gamer and the little guy, especially against some of the companies who were pulling egregious crap.
Yeah, which, by the way, for those of you who maybe didn't follow Game Trailers back in the day, Annoyed Gamer was Marcus's own show. After he had been on Invisible Walls for a while, he built like a nice fan base. We decided to give him his own show, and it was basically a rant show. And was it one of the first rant shows, maybe?
I think, between,
let's be honest, Marcus, almost everything we did at Game Trailers was the first whatever, the first video version of whatever. People don't realize we created like the graphics comparison at Game Trailers, which is something that Digital Foundry has now built an entire business on.
Yeah. Well, I think Jim Sterling was definitely
Was he already doing rants at that point?
Yeah, he was already doing rants, and he's still doing them. And
maybe Angry Joe was around then too.
Angry Joe, yeah. I mean, in my opinion, Jim is still the gold standard for pissing people off and being very smart
and being smart
with
about
regards to how he gets stuff across. But yeah, I love doing Annoyed Gamer, but it started to get a little bit tired trying to find something to get pissed off about every week.
Yeah, you're manufacturing anger at that point, right?
Well, I had a couple of episodes that I went back towards the end and said, I really shouldn't have done that because I jumped on a bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
But it just got... And look, I'm still a miserable, grumpy old bastard. But
we wouldn't have you any other way, Marcus.
But what's the point in being that and just... picking on the smallest things. I mean, it's all about perspective. It's all about making sure that the stuff I was doing was still standing within that, wanting to do right by the little guy, and to call out certain sections of the games community for, bullshit. And it started to get me down.
How much impacted the whole Jonathan Blow thing have?
I think Jonathan Blow was actually very magnanimous about it. It was obviously the Phil Fish issue. that still rears its head. And, we're talking about 8, 9 years, 10, almost 10 years
Yeah,
later.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
I mean, I still get the occasional, oh, I can't believe you got Fez 2 cancelled, which I didn't.
Do you think you didn't?
Well, no, Phil Fish came out and actually said, it's nothing to do with this guy. He actually said it's nothing to do with this guy. I'm just tired of video games in general. And he wanted to walk away.
You don't take any responsibility for that, Marcus, at all.
Well, getting a game canceled?
Yeah. You don't think you were maybe one of the final pushes off the cliff for him? What happened with you and that whole dust up?
Look, if this, I'm gonna I'll get your answer in a minute.
Okay.
The whole conversation, the whole rant was based around Phil Fish in particular at the time was attacking, I think it was Microsoft, over their indie policy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they made some changes and started to embrace indie games more. And then he attacked them for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is obviously a very long time ago. I'm now 50 and on several narcotics for my chest that basically they do fudge my memory a little.
Sure.
But, I mean, I called him out for his hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
And he, at the time, he was, somebody who, look, he was like me. I was like him.
Yeah,
very opinionated.
You guys were very similar and generally.
And he made some games that he made a game that was hugely successful. Everybody loved it. And I don't have a problem with that. But if you're going to dish it, you got to take it. And I called him out for, for basically this, viewing Microsoft as damned if you do and damned if you don't, and that hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of got buried then because...
Yeah, I don't think anybody blamed you, Marcus, at all. Like, I don't think anyone thought that your issues with him were unreasonable or unfounded. And I don't even know if people shouldn't blame you for what he decided to do. I'm just curious if you think that maybe the situation with you was just one of the final straws of dozens for him.
It could have been. I don't feel personally responsible for it. Would I like him to have finished his game for his fans? Absolutely. If he comes back, do I wish him all the best? Absolutely. But at that moment in time, I called him out on him and Jonathan Blow out for their hypocrisy by attacking a company for doing one thing, and when they rectified it, attacking them again for doing so.
Yeah, understandable.
And that's what got lost with a lot of commentators. A lot of sites decided that I was public enemy number one, which was fine. It is what it is. They wanted to get the clicks. There are people who I'd met in person who then, went on video and, didn't even reach out to me to have a conversation, just attacked me left, right, and center. And you know what? That's if they're happy, good luck to them. I mean, I moved on. And like I said, if he comes back and does Fez 2 or remasters Fez 1 or whatever he wants to do, I just hope he's happy. Mm-hmm. And you know what? A lot of people are happy out of the video game space that I know, because it has become a toxic environment. And that's why, like I said, I stepped away from Annoyed Gamer, because I was worried I was contributing too much to that toxicity.
To the negativity. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I got out of it before Gamergate.
Yeah.
Because then
I can imagine you taking on Gamergate.
Well, it was worrying because people were being doxxed, people were being attacked, and people were being swatted. And I had a wife, and she had a business, and I didn't want her business to be impacted.
Yeah,
I had friends, and I didn't want their business to be impacted. So I was like, you know what? I've given this industry X amount of years of my life. I think it's probably like 20 years of my life at the time, 20, 25 years. I'm like, I'm done.
So
I just
Marcus,
wanted to walk away, and I did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
I did. And, I was actually having more fun doing the pop culture podcast on Game Trailers than I was doing Invisible Walls or doing Annoyed Gamer. And, everybody goes through that. I mean, one of the things I will always say to anybody who wants to get into the industry is make sure you have a social life. Make sure you've got something to separate you from video games. Do not burn yourself out by playing video games 24/7, working in video games, playing video games, talking video games. Expand your horizons.
I could take that advice right about now.
You could have taken that. You could have taken that 15, 20 years ago too.
I've been living that life for 23 years now, Marcus, with no breaks. Yeah. It's
I mean,
hard.
I've stepped away from stuff, and like I said, I stepped away for the longest time, and I actually put a Facebook post up on my personal page, and a lot of industry friends said they understood where I was coming from,
Yeah.
and they felt the same way, and I got a start after about a good sort of 18 months, 2 years. I decided to just come back. I slowly got myself involved again. I slowly started, playing some more games and, playing what I wanted to play.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I started to get really interested again, and then I actually formed a consultancy with a couple of friends because having spent lots of years PRing games and working in marketing, and then critiquing games. I mean, I've still got a pretty unique perspective on with regards to, in my opinion, game design. I mean,
so you came on SIFTD and you helped me launch SIFTD. You were the original co-host of Game Face. And then the day before E3, you decided you didn't want to do it anymore. Why did that happen, Marcus? I'll be honest with you. I still don't have any idea why that happened.
I was just tired, mate.
Yeah.
I was tired. I wanted to go to E3 and just relax and see some friends. E3 for me has long gone from being work where it starts at 7:30 in the morning on the booth for the pre-team meeting, and then being on your feet all day, and then going out for dinners and partying or whatever and functioning on 3 hours of sleep. Those days are long gone. I actually just wanted to go to E3 and just see some people
and have fun.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is that once Game Trailers was gone, I mean I get detached from the industry.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going into the office 2 or 3 times a day or 2-3 times a week to hang out, record different shows, see everybody. And when you start to work away, and a lot of people are now understanding that because they're working from home because of the pandemic, but I started to feel so detached from the industry that, I wasn't seeing my friends. I wasn't having that social thing anymore because, again, you get married, you buy a house, you live on the outskirts of Los Angeles. You're not getting on a plane anymore to go and see people. You're not going into an office every day. It does, it changes your perspective. And
it
this
does.
Was obviously, pre-Zoom, pre a lot of ways to keep us connected, And I just, I suppose, it was it was just my time that I needed to go, what? Games aren't fun. I want to have some fun. And I just wanted to walk away, and I know I left
bad timing, Marcus.
Honestly, I think
day before E3, I don't think the timing could have been worse.
Well, I mean, I think if I'd gone through with that E3, I don't think it would have been good. I don't think it would have been good for you, for anybody.
Well, I mean, after you canceled, I agreed. I'm like, if he felt that he needed to do this the day before E3, whatever coverage he would have given us at E3 probably wouldn't have been great. But I also wouldn't have been left scrambling to replace our E3 coverage in like 4 hours. Well, that was the hard part.
It was just there was a lot of things going on there, and I mean, I don't really want to continue to harp on about this, and but yeah, there was a lot of things going on in my life. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't feeling very happy, and I just wanted to get away from things, and I did. And yeah, the timing was not great from your perspective, but you would have gotten nothing good out of it, I don't think.
I believe that. Yeah.
And
I'll be honest with you, Marcus. I could tell that your heart wasn't really in it, and you were just doing it as a favor to me. After the 3rd or 4th episode of Game Face, because the other thing I was seeing too is that you weren't playing games, which, as you were talking about earlier, if you're going to do this, you have to just keep playing games, because if you don't, you have no frame of reference for whatever you're trying to discuss. You have nothing to compare and contrast what you're talking about to something else.
I was still playing the games. I was just getting no enjoyment out of them.
Yeah.
The games became a chore.
By the way, anyone who's listening to this is water under the bridge between Marcus and I. This is not something that I'm still upset about or anything like that. So
no, just like I said, it became a chore, and I needed to step away and go and try and figure out what I wanted to do on my own terms. I mean, obviously, this was 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, 6 years.
I mean, my wife and I at the time were going through the early stages of the foster process.
Yep.
We were going to classes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it was a long ass commute.
Yeah, it was. You were taking the train to West
and even,
LA.
Yeah, I mean, it was taking me an hour and a half to 2 hours by train to get to the studio. And because it was a live show, it was going at a time, and then it was taking me 2.5 to 3 hours to get back. And if I drove, driving was always hard because it was.
Well, driving's always worse in LA.
Well, it was rough
just
at the
way
best
it is.
Again, I mean, the parking situation was never really great. I mean, I think you had one parking spot, which was yours, which is understandable. And so it just, things just got too much. And I was like, all right, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And, I'd had the conversation with my wife, and, we were really on board for the fostering thing. And
priorities. I mean, look, I get that. Absolutely. Yeah. Fostering a child, far more important than doing a podcast.
Well,
so you left, and then you took a little bit of time off again. And then, as you said a little earlier, you started a consulting firm with a couple ex-friends from the industry, right?
Yeah, I mean, ex-industry friends. They're still friends.
Right, yeah. I didn't mean that they aren't your friends. I meant that they were friends that you had from the industry before, yeah.
Ironically, the consultancy were actually discussing setting it up, and had agreed to do it in principle the week before my heart attack.
Wow!
And the next thing they know is, perhaps he's gone quiet, gone off the idea, and it's like, oh no, he's in hospital in a hypothermic coma, and then it took a year to recover, and then
that was called Level 74, correct?
Level 74, yeah.
And Tal Blevins and Steve Butts from IGN were your partners, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I've known them, 20 odd years. I think I've known them a little longer than I've known you, Shane, because they were actually one of the two of the first people I ever met when I was back at Red Storm.
I believe it.
Back in 2000.
I mean, I know, well, Tal, especially, he was the founder of IGN. So, they had been doing that for a couple of years. I mean, IGN inspired me to do this. So certainly you met Tal before you ever met me, for sure.
Yeah. And look, it was good. I mean, we were basically working with publishers and developers, evaluating the games early on in their cycle.
And what is that like, Marcus? I think a lot of people, now, I don't want to get too inside baseball here because not everyone is a games journalist, but I think everyone kind of at least understands the perspective of the games journalist and kind of what the job is and what they have to do to be successful at the job. What have you found to be different when consulting?
The money's a lot better.
Of course it is.
People are more inclined to listen to you. You know what it's like when consultants have been brought in.
Yep.
Consultant is the bane of every single person's existence when they work at a company.
Yep.
And look, the whole idea is, all these years of experience of various aspects of the games industry, not just playing the games and evaluating them, but it's translating that ability to critique and make it really constructive. And especially after Annoyed Gamer, where I'd been, ranty pants for so long, to be able to work with publishers and developers on their games and provide constructive criticism as to, features that were working or weren't working, things that they may have missed out on, provide PR marketing ideas. I mean, it was really, really refreshing.
I have a question for you, Marcus. I've never worked as a consultant. Why is it that so many games are released with issues that anyone who plays the game can clearly see are issues?
Well, for a start, so many games don't hire me as a consultant to look at them.
I get that. But realistically, this happens all over the industry. You play a game and you're like, how did this make it through focus testing, their mock reviews, their consultants? How does that happen sometimes?
Well, not every company uses consultants. And I mean, the big difference in what I did and still do for certain clients is, if a game might not be coming out for 3 years, I get in early and look at it. I mean, the reason, the mock review process generally only kicks in when the game is a gold master candidate, and everything's set in stone there. I mean, everything's
too late.
The foundations are laid, the drywall is up, it's redecorated, the roof is on. Everything is too late. You can't make any changes. So, with regards to getting in from the alpha stage and looking at things. And it's not just playing a game, it's looking at design documents, it's looking at future plans, it's looking at post-launch content and support, and then playing the games and looking at the various features and structures and the pathways within a game, and seeing what works, seeing what feels right, seeing what feels wrong, seeing what just needs that little touch of work, or perhaps taking it off in a different direction. Mm-hmm. That was the speciality of the house, getting in that early. And I think, it's alien to a lot of developers and publishers because they're like, this is my precious. This is my baby.
Right.
And
so are they very protective, would you say, when you go and try to offer feedback?
Actually, the companies I've been lucky enough to work with and the games I've been lucky enough to work on have been very receptive.
Okay.
To the feedback. They understand.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah, well, they also understand that, we have this, they were this saying that you can't see the wood for the trees, because you are so close to a game that sometimes you just don't get, you get stuck on a path, and you can't, the deeper in you get, you can't take any divergent paths, and you can't see the bigger picture because you're so locked into the minutia. And that is just a standard issue with games design, movies, writing, music. Yeah. And sometimes, it needs somebody who is impartial.
Who's a lumberjack who can come down and chop down one tree.
Well, no, the idea is just to, help yank back that perspective and say, here, look at the bigger picture. Right. Oh, now you can see why this section here is perhaps not working. And because, again, there's no politics, no inter-office politics with regards to, somebody like me coming in. I don't have an axe to grind. I am not. I don't have a financial interest in the end of the game. All I care about when I go in is what can make this a better game, and that is really rewarding in itself. And when people say, "All right, we've taken on some of your stuff," some of the stuff that I suggest cannot be taken on board because, again, some things are totally locked in. Engine capabilities, it's not the way they want to take a certain game, but the fact it can provide alternatives is something very cool, and it's something I enjoy, and I get, like I said,
it's got to be rewarding to see changes that you suggested show up in a game and then have critics say that's a good part of the game.
Let me see which of the games that I've worked on that I've done the.
Can you even say what games you work on? Do you have to sign NDAs and things like that?
I'm signing NDAs. I'm trying to think of ones.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Oh, no, I'm not going to get in trouble. I'm not getting in trouble. The majority of my work, I'll be honest with you, has been on 2 titles that have not yet released.
Okay. Are they announced?
Yes, they're announced.
Okay.
And I am very much looking forward to seeing the reaction when they are eventually ship, because they're both games that I had a passion for as well.
Yep.
Now, so I really enjoyed contributing to them. So
okay. So you left Level 74 and you started from Alpha. What was the driving reason why you decided to strike out on your own?
I just really wanted to focus more on getting in and doing the early stuff.
Yep. So what you're doing with Level 74, were you hitting the products in beta?
Alpha. But we were doing a lot of the later stage mock reviews that were, that are the bread and butter of a lot of consultancies and providing the projected Metacritics, and we were very good at it. I mean,
so you guys were telling them how the game was going to review instead of telling them how to fix the game before it's released. And obviously the idea of the mock review, it helps a publisher figure out how they need to target their marketing and their advertising, whether they should maybe pull back on their advertising or marketing, or maybe they need to spend more on advertising and marketing.
Yeah, basically.
Whereas what you're doing now is more like trying to fix the game before it is.
Yeah. I mean, I just, like I said, I sit down and I play the games for normally 2 or 3 days. And I sit and I just go through every aspect, and I look at what I think is working, what isn't. I provide comparisons with other similar titles and what they're doing right now or what they've done in the past, things that have just clicked and perhaps haven't. And it is immensely satisfying. And look, I don't expect every single bit of feedback I give to be taken on board, and acted upon, or even welcomed in some cases. But everybody I've worked with has been just receptive and understanding, and it's nice to be making a positive impact. And if I do, the way I look at it, if I do my job properly and I provide a bunch of things, a bunch of ideas, and if they adapt a couple of them and they're successful, and they don't adapt ones, and then I get validation later on, perhaps because those particular things are called out in a review or whatever. At the end of the day, as long as I've done the job to the best of my ability, I'm happy.
That's all you can do. That's really all you can do in life, is do the best that you can.
Yeah, and the fact is, I enjoy doing it. It gives me pleasure to contribute and work with people at various studios and publishers who are just great people who remind me a lot of myself in my old PR days, where they're in the industry, they're working at these companies, and they're busting ass, and they just want to do the best games possible. And I think one of the benefits of the industry now over maybe 10 or 15 years ago is that the people who are rising to the top now, the people who are in charge now, are people who have been at companies for X amount of time and have been through numerous launches, who are still video game players at heart and give more of a shit. I'm seeing that with a lot of people I deal with, people who are former journalists, people who have done various things and have been around in the industry and have migrated into working for publishers and developers. And that's incredibly heartening, because I think the days of people coming into the games industry because they were hired because they worked for Pepsi or KFC or Mountain Dew or whatever, and it's like, oh, they can bring video games to new heights with this person because they worked on Coke Zero.
Yeah, or he launched New Coke. Hire him. I mean, that's literally how bad it used to be. They'd bring in these people from other industries that failed.
Yeah, I mean, it was brand name fanciness, but video games are bigger than everything now. Yeah. Now it's the other brands who are scrabbling to get on the video game train, and that means that we still have some total pond scum working at various positions. Oh
yeah, but they're being outed here. I mean, the last couple of years have been a reckoning for a lot of those folks.
Well, I think look, when I say pond scum, yes, I mean obviously there are some people who've done some very naughty things, but I'm talking about the ones who just view it as a paycheck and it's like, oh, I work in video games now. It's so cool. Yeah. Yes, but
they don't really care about the media.
Played a video game, but I mean, I like to say we need more Peter Moores in this industry.
I would agree, and less Phil Harrisons.
Well, I think
the king of failing upwards, Phil Harrison.
Yeah, he had a rough time of it.
I can't remember a single thing he succeeded at, and he just gets one job after another.
Into crap.
Yep, exactly. And here he is. He's at Google now, running Stadia into the ground.
Stadia that just fired 150 people today.
Yeah, and cut all their own game development, and it's only a matter of time until it's shut down. But that segues nicely, actually, into something else I wanted to talk with you about. There are a few things that are kind of emerging in the industry, or in some cases have already emerged, and I want to get your take on which one you think is most important and which one you think is going to have the most stamina. So there's game streaming, as far as like Google Stadia, Amazon, everyone's jumping in now, GeForce Now, free-to-play games, cross-platform play. What do you think of those is going to be the one that stands the test of time?
Well, I think cross-platform play is the one that personally appeals to me. That especially as with the exception of the Nintendo devices, cross-platform play for PlayStation, PC, and Xbox should be a piece of piss and a total no-brainer.
Yeah.
simply because they're all based on the same architecture.
Yep.
I don't know the ins and outs enough of a Switch. I do have one.
I mean, Marcus, do you think it was technical issues that were holding it up? Or
Well,
do you
no, I
think
mean,
it was
I'm just saying
building
that.
like walled gardens that they didn't want other people in?
Well, this is the thing. So that you remove the technical aspect. Technical aspect is obviously the first stumbling block, because if shit can't connect to each other, it can't connect.
Yep.
We know that's not the case, which brings us to the second half, which is, as you said, everybody wanting their own enclosed ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Sony and Microsoft butting heads, or not wanting to I will, if I make it cross-platform, people will probably play it on this system as opposed to this system, and that just does the game as a disservice. I think that we're seeing signs of cross-platform coming, sort of like getting a lot better. I mean, Microsoft, are doing a lot with regards to their PC stuff as well. I mean, I got myself a brand new PC last summer, which was well overdue, and it's a behemoth Alienware Aurora. And I'm seeing that the Xbox app for it with the Games Pass Ultimate.
I was playing the Medium on my Xbox Series X, and I was capturing footage of the game for GameFace. And while I'm sitting there, my PC is popping my achievements up on the screen.
Yeah,
because I have the Xbox Live app on my PC, and I have notifications turned off on my console so that they don't ruin the footage that I'm capturing. Instead, they started popping up on my PC monitor. I was like, this is a different age that we're living in now.
But I mean, that's the way, that is the way, and that's the great thing. And look, I understand people can't always, we've always been in the lucky position. We've had PlayStations and Xboxes and Switches, or Nintendo 64s or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can have that.
Yeah.
They have
a lot of people have to pick one.
Pick one or the other. It would be great if Sony and Microsoft could put aside whatever differences, and I'm not laying blame on either side, and just, especially for third-party games, that you could actually have cross-platform across the board on all systems, because it basically just brings more people into the gaming ecosystem, and people have more fun. And look, certain games need that little bit of a boost. I mean, they need more people playing from day one or coming in, and it's always the third-party games that perhaps need that boost. And look, this taps back to something I've been talking about recently. I started talking about on my new Twitch channel, which is free-to-play multiplayer.
Yeah,
Sony and
League
Microsoft,
of Legends really blazed the trail for that.
Well, look, I mean, remember the days before Sony and Microsoft, when we'd have free, if you were a PC gamer, apart from playing your internet subscription, multiplayer gaming was free.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have anything locked behind Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus. And
I mean, online play's still free on PC.
Well, it is. It
I don't
is,
have to pay
absolutely.
anything to play online on PC.
But I mean, this is the thing. I really would love to see Sony and Microsoft, especially as they want to focus more on their subscription-based stuff, like Games Pass Ultimate, and
instead, Microsoft tried to double the price of Xbox Live.
Yeah, as a way to force people over to the other service,
right?
And that lasted about 8 hours. That was
literally, I think less actually.
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
It's terrible. Where do those ideas come from, Marcus? That's one of those examples where I think the average player, the average enthusiast, sits there and they're like, who was in the meeting and didn't speak up and say, this is a terrible idea? How did no one at Xbox see how terrible of an idea it was before they announced it publicly?
This is why you need consultants. Things like this happen because, again, you still get some people who are afraid to talk.
I think the average Joe could have told him, like, that's a terrible idea.
If somebody gets this idea in their head that this is the way they want their department to go, it's hard to talk them out of it. I mean, I've been in some meetings that have not gone very well because I've been very, very vocal to my professional detriment back in the day as a PR person. I mean,
that segues nicely into the next thing I want to talk to you about, which is political stances as a public figure. You probably don't notice this, but I am apolitical on Twitter. I do not post anything political in my Twitter feed. I am a small business owner, and I'll just be perfectly honest with you. I'm petrified by the idea of airing my political stances could cost me my business. Now, look, if you listen to our podcast or you consume any content on Sifted, it's pretty obvious where I stand. I have said many times that Trump is the worst president we've ever had and things like that. But most people who are not a part of Sifted and are not a patron or a subscriber, where they see me is on Twitter. And I'm trying, obviously, Twitter is a big tool to help grow your business. So I, again, admittedly, have been very reluctant to share my political stance on Twitter. You have not. How do you kind of look at that? Because you could look at it a couple of different ways. You could say, okay, well, Shane, you're not angering anybody, but you're not energizing anyone either. Or you could look at it like
that's the one thing I would say is that, you know, I understand you're scared to scare viewers and potential subscribers off, but I would say that you would also, you know, by being a little more political in your personal Twitter feed, not on the Sifted feed, but on your own.
Of course not.
Just, you know, being more open with what you do could probably attract people more, because there's a lot of people who are socially conscious and activism driven who want to support companies. I mean, you see companies who are leaning to the right, also having supported or advertised on right-leaning networks, getting battered from pillar to post, because people. And look, let's be totally honest here. We know that there are 70 million Americans who voted for Trump. Mm-hmm. And not all of that 70 million are MAGA wingnuts who, like the ones who tried to storm the Capitol on January the 6th.
There are people in my family
there are people
voted for Trump that would not storm the Capitol. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, and look, I do have an issue with people who vote for Trump, because at the end of the day, if you're voting for Trump, you're voting for ignorance, you're voting for divisiveness, and you're voting for violence and a narrow-minded view.
Oh, Marcus, I
America.
didn't say I don't have issues with these people.
No. I'm saying from my perspective.
My
perspective, I'm just saying that. That's the way I look at it. There's 70 million people. Not all of them are, you know, full-on red hat wearers. But then there's also a lot more who voted for Biden, and a lot more who still didn't vote, or a lot more who couldn't vote, who don't want a lot of this
support
bullshit
someone who might support someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, they would much rather. I mean, we take our dollars to companies that, you know, where we can afford it. We shop local. We shop with companies who, you know, align with our political views. People who don't practice.
I don't think you're alone there. I think a lot of people do that. I mean,
yeah, and I think that's the way to do it. I mean, look, and for me, I've had the Annoyed Gamer brand in Twitter for a long time, and I know it's cost me followers when I've put on, you know, when I've, especially in, you know, over the last 4 years when I've been ranting against Donald Trump and the
only political thing I ever posted, Marcus, was on election day. I posted a photo of me outside the polling booth where I voted, and I said, I did my part to save our democracy. And and within 30 minutes, I lost almost 200 followers.
And that's unfortunately says more about them than you. And honestly, I mean, look, so let's just, you know, I mean, at my peak, I had 25,000 followers on Twitter, and I think I'm about down to, actually, where is my profile?
I think you can also look on the flip side, and someone like a Colin Moriarty, who isn't, you know, a Trump-loving whatever, but he definitely appeals to right-leaning players a little more.
He's a libertarian, and libertarians, I saw somebody describe libertarians as closeted Republicans with bongs.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite.
I don't honestly know. I am an independent. I have no political affiliation whatsoever, and I'm
a filthy socialist.
And I'll be honest with you, Marcus. I never cared about politics until Trump came along, and I got off. I had never even voted for president until Trump came along, and I literally registered as an independent and got off the sidelines just to get rid of him, to try to, again, save our democracy. I could see it coming. As soon as I saw him, I saw it all coming.
It's still, look, I personally think that if you are entitled, if you are eligible to vote, it's your civic duty to vote. And exercise that right.
Guilty. I had not done it my life, because I'll be honest with you, I was the guy who was like, all politicians are the same. They all lie just as much as the other one. And then Trump came along and just blew all that to bits. And that got me.
Trump's a grifter. His family's a grifter.
Absolutely, he's been a con artist his entire life. Yeah.
My point is that they should make it easier to vote. That every election, whether it be the midterms or the general election, should be a national holiday. Agreed. Where people can get out and vote. When you see one side trying to stop people from exercising their constitutional right to vote,
flag.
That's a problem. And the Republican Party is not what the Republican Party was 20 years ago.
It's not. It's not about like tax policy anymore, where we spend our tax money. It's gone to some other universe.
All they did was double, triple the deficit. But anyway, I don't want to get.
I don't want to get in the minutiae of politics.
I am a working class boy from a small town outside of Swansea in Wales. Always have that sort of like working class mentality. I think healthcare should be free, education should be free. People should have the right to earn. I mean, the American dream is gone, but the American dream was you could work a job, have a home, put food on the table.
Raise a family.
And be able to enjoy yourself to a certain degree. Not a portion every single driveway, but people could have the basics. And the basics no longer are attainable unless you are working 3 freaking jobs nowadays. Yeah. And there's both of you in a relationship are working 3 jobs each. It's become so top heavy, where you see that since the pandemic, $1 trillion was added to the wealth of the billionaires, and everybody else got fucked.
Yeah,
that's a problem. And to me, it's a social responsibility. But not everybody's like that. Not everybody's like me. I mean, I don't really care. Anything I put on iGamer is not a brand decision. It's my stream of consciousness. So that's why I'm happy to be more political. While I was on a business trip last March, just before the pandemic, Bernie Sanders was in town. And I didn't get to go, but my wife did. And Public Enemy was performing. And it was, so she basically
fight the power.
But she basically, got me the poster, which I now have framed from that particular one. But yeah, I believe that we need to do better by everybody and treat each other as we would like to be treated. Don't pick on people because of the color of their skin, because of who they love, how they feel, whether they are binary, non-binary. Just live, and I'm on the live and let live. And also,
turning into a hippie
let's keep this planet in one place.
Yeah, I agree.
Last year I was packing to evacuate because of the wildfires. They got within a couple of miles of my house. We sealed our house up with masking tape over every door and window because the smoke was getting in. We had to buy air purifiers. I had to inventory everything in the house because we were under an evacuation order for a week.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that's because PG&E and SoCal Edison are not updating their equipment, and it's causing these fires in various parts of the state. And the reason they're not updating stuff is because they're paying their goddamn shareholders.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Utilities should be publicly owned and publicly, they should be federal and state level ownership, not corporations, not shares, and so on. All the money should be basically pumped back into improving the quality of life. And everybody says, "Oh, that's filthy socialism." Well, who do you think operates the bus system? Who do you think operates the train system? Who keeps the roads going? Who keeps the libraries going and the street lights going?
I hear you, Marcus.
This is why, yes, I am an unabashed socialist. I am not a Fidel Castro level socialist. I do believe people should be allowed to make their own money. I do believe people should be able to shoot for the stars if they want to, but not by treading on people's heads. And when they do make the sort of money that the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezoses of this world make, they should be taxed at such a high rate to help make sure that people have houses over their heads and kids don't go to school hungry.
Yeah. The irony for this whole thing for me is that I was born in West Virginia, probably if not the poorest state in the United States, top 3 for sure. And so a lot of things I do in my life is trying to help people like the people from West Virginia. I root for the little guy to ascend. And it's very frustrating to watch them essentially vote against their own best interests. It's like I can't help you if you won't help yourself, and that's been a really frustrating thing for me over the last.
It's a disinformation thing. I mean, this is where
they're just fed lies and
Well, when you have stations like Fox News and was it?
Don't even mention the other trash rags. I don't even want their name.
I mean,
on this show.
The news outlets need to have some sort of regulation that if you claim to be a news outlet and you peddle bullshit and made up stuff, you lose all rights
to be held accountable.
Held accountable, taxed as an entertainment entity, because basically there should be tax breaks for delivering unbiased, non-partisan, fact-based news. Get away from the opinionists.
People will never agree on what the truth is anymore. People could see something happen right in front of their face, and they will say it didn't happen if someone told them it didn't happen. I mean, that's where we're at. So that's an uphill battle I think we're going to be fighting for a long time.
Yes.
Marcus, you mentioned earlier that you have a brand new Twitch channel, and that I believe is twitch.tv/IamBeer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And what are you doing over there? What's the plan?
Well, I've only done one show so far. I did one last Friday just to test things out. And it's basically, I sat down and I thought, what has the internet not got enough of? Opinionated, middle-aged white guys. I mean, with no discernible talent whatsoever.
I completely disagree with that. But
I mean, there's a lot of amazing men, women, whatever gender you describe yourself as. And look, I mean, I'm old, I'm still working on the pronouns, please bear with me. But there's a lot of talented people out there and creating amazing shit. Don't have that skill set, but the thing I love about Twitch is that I can put my webcam on, I can sit and I can talk about stuff that I've played, games that I've played, like Cyberpunk 2077, Hitman 3, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Those are the games I've played recently, and just get into it. And because I've enjoyed playing them in various ways, I just talk and critique them, talk about the news that's happened in the industry, but also talk about more pop culture stuff, movies I've watched. So
it's open format, kind of like this show.
Wonder Woman 1984 was horrible.
It is horrible. It's so bad.
Yeah, and so I've been working on my my plan, and I actually have so I have this channel, and I have 3 shows mapped out. First one's on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the pop culture news break with Grumpy Uncle Beer.
Okay.
And that's basically just catching up on the news from the weekend, stuff like the Google Stadia. I want to talk about things like the Justice League Snyder Cut, and talk, a couple of other things. And then on Wednesday at 2 p.m. So I basically have scheduled everything to happen, the same time every couple of days. And then on Wednesday, I'm doing a few of my favorite things, which is just a trip down memory lane for me. It's not going to be a huge, diverse discussion every week, but I'm going to pick like 2 or 3 games that I really like, or 2 or 3 movies, and I'm going to dissect
showing off stuff that you like, basically.
Yeah, and just talk about how they develop my passions. One week I'm going to talk about ZX Spectrum games from the 80s. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite albums, and comic books, and some of my Super NES games that I really loved, and just talk about these things and build a little do something a little bit different. And then on Friday it's Back from the Dead, which is my weekly catch up, where I just talk about what's happened during the week, again, what I'm playing, what I want to play, what's been interesting, what's sucked. And that's that's a little more perhaps Invisible Walls-ish, but without any guests. I mean, then I'm still learning the Twitch process.
Yeah, it takes a little while.
It does take a little while, but I'm very happy to say I have over 150 followers already.
That's great. Congratulations.
That is pretty cool. And now I'm just going to work to get the page tidied up, and production values, get some logos, get intro sequences, and just learn how to do all that stuff. I mean, it's stuff that I was very blessed to have.
Yeah, people like me always handled that for you before.
Yeah, incredibly talented people who I always appreciated, and now I appreciate a whole lot more.
Even more.
Yeah, we were having this discussion, offline, that it's you go through so much work trying to do all the video editing and the capture and everything else. And I don't really want to do that. I don't want to stream games.
I don't blame you.
I mean, I've said that I may stream a game from time to time, and I might well do that, perhaps for charity or for pure comedy purposes. But when I play games, I play them at my own pace. I don't want to feel like I'm on the clock and I have to do the dance monkey dance thing. And so, I still want to play games to enjoy them.
Yeah.
And so I'm still going to keep on doing that. And I'm just going to talk about things that I enjoy. And obviously, if there are things that irk me, I will talk about those too.
All right. Well, before we go, Marcus, what are you playing? What are you watching? And what are you drinking this weekend?
Okay. Well, I'm not drinking anything this weekend because I'm on dry February.
Okay.
The wife and I planned on doing dry January, but the inauguration was it
was too much to bear.
We busted out a couple of champagne.
Oh, and you're watching an attempted coup happening at your capital. I could see where you might need a glass.
Oh well,
of
I mean,
scotch.
on the 6th, that was horrific. But yeah, so there's no drinking this month. But as everybody knows, myself and Michael Pachter are we're always the Scotch lovers of game trailers. And yes, I look forward to having a glass of scotch with Pack again on his boat when this is all over, and while we compare pandemic haircuts, because his is just as wild
Raging.
as mine. So I'm not drinking anything. I will probably be on the Earl Grey tea and some bottled water. What am I watching? I'm watching The Stand, which is coming to the end of its run on CBS All Access. I'm watching WandaVision on Disney Plus, because they are both very enjoyable. Also watching, would you believe, The Unicorn on CBS, which is a great little sitcom.
2 CBS shows, major broadcast news networks.
I mean, one of them, the CBS interactive one of The Stand, which is the adaptation of the Stephen King series. Yeah. It's very R-rated, lots of swears and nudity and stuff.
Because it's off broadcast.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the things that I'm watching and playing. Well, since you sold me on Hades, I'm going to give that a crack from our old friend Greg Kasavin and Supergiant Games. But things I have been playing over the last couple of weeks, Cyberpunk, clocked up a lot of hours on that, over 150 hours, I think.
Oh wow, I haven't played that much, but I did finish it and played it all the way to the end.
I played it through to the end and then decided to restart it because of the way the ending works.
Okay.
And it's. Again, I'm playing on a top of the end PC, so there are some glitches that are really annoying at times, but it's still a frigging cracking game.
It is. I really
Assassin's
Creed
Valhalla, I put a lot of time into. Hitman 3. I love the Hitman franchise unequivocally. I am probably the worst Hitman player on the planet. But I just love
does not surprise me because that game requires patience.
Well, no. I mean, I'm actually very patient. I tend to watch everybody.
That is not one of the words that comes to mind when I think of Marcus Beer.
Again, look, I'm 50 years old now, and there are certain things that you learn to be over the years.
That's true.
What else? What else have I been playing? I've actually been going back through my old library. The Old Republic, the Star Wars MMO.
Okay.
I played a lot of that. Started some new characters and had a bunch of fun kicking around with that.
You have a full weekend, Marcus, if you're going to play all this stuff.
Well, no. I mean, I'm just. This is what I've just been playing over the last couple of weeks. But
so this weekend, this is what you're going to choose from, essentially.
Yeah, more Hitman 3 and probably some Hades and maybe some GTA Online. I'm finding my way around that. Oh. Ironically, I did actually try to play Halo again from the Xbox Live app yesterday, and I had to put it down because it's
the first one, Combat Evolved.
Yeah, the first one is not the
It's tough to play now.
It is. And then the other one I tried to explore was Yakuza Collection because I never really played Yakuza before that. And I'm sorry, I mean, there were some things never change, and me sitting through 45 minutes of cutscenes before I get to any gameplay, automatic fail. I installed.
See,
Yakuza.
You're impatient, Marcus. Just like
I'm sorry.
I'm joking.
I'm sorry, but
because that is the extreme.
These huge cutscenes on 3 games before you can even get in and learn about your character. That's a party. That's sadism. That's a party fail.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's not going to. So basically, they came on my hard drive. They went off my hard drive. But I've got enough stuff to keep me going. And I mean, there's a couple of games coming out this year that I want to Horizon, the follow up to Horizon Zero Dawn. I want to play. I mean, I'm going to have to look at getting a PS5 at some point.
Yep. I am one of the lucky ones who has both, but it took a lot of work to make that happen.
You are part of the industry
all night. Yeah.
You have to be. You work hard to get those perks, and this was the first time.
Oh, Marcus, I didn't get them free. I had to buy them like everybody else.
Oh wow! Well,
Sony and Microsoft cut me off a long time ago from free hardware. I still get games, but not hardware. No.
Wow, they need to up their game then. They really do.
It's fine. I'm happy with the free games. We're little, I'm not working at Game Trailers or G4 or GameSpot anymore. I understand their perspective. So I'm okay paying for my own hardware. I was lucky enough to actually find it, which is really the scare. Like, to me, it's like if they would have been like, okay, we want you to pay for it, but we'll make sure you get one. That would have been nice, but I'm not bent out of shape that I didn't get it free. It's all good. So Marcus, thank you very much for joining us on the debut episode of 3 Night Weekend. I cannot think of a better person to kick things off with than you. It's been a great discussion, and thanks for taking the time with us, man.
Thanks for having me, dude. It's always lovely to sit and chat with you and catch up. And who knows, maybe at some point when I've figured everything out, I'll have you on one of my shows on my Twitch channel, and then the boot will be on the other foot.
That's right, and I am more than willing to do that. And by the way, you can find Marcus on Twitter at Annoyed Gamer, correct?
Yeah, at Annoyed Gamer, and it's got all the info on the Twitch channel up there as well. So
yep, and that is twitch.tv/IamBeer. All right, now that Marcus has told you what he's up to this weekend, it's time to chart your own path.
Games!
February is usually slow for games, but we got a couple things for you this weekend that you might consider playing. First up is Destruction All-Stars. This is a PS5 exclusive, and if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you can get the game for free right now. It's a smash-up derby game with a little bit of hero shooter mixed in there. Initial reviews have been lukewarm, but it is unique and something that you probably haven't played at least for quite a while. Next up is Neo 2 for PC. It launches today alongside the Neo Collection for PlayStation 5, so if you're looking for a hack-and-slash action RPG that's really top shelf, excellent choices across the board there. Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood was just released yesterday. It has also been getting lukewarm reviews, but if you're looking for a game where you can hack and slash with werewolf claws, you're not going to find many other options out there. And then finally, Monkey Barrels is launching for PC on Saturday. This is a twin-stick shooter, and yep, there are plenty of those available on PC, but this one certainly has its own unique angle, and it's worth checking out.
TV and film!
Ready to be a couch potato this weekend? There are lots of options in TV and film, and we're just going to get through them real quick because there is a lot. Heish Season 2 launches on Netflix this weekend. Invisible City, a brand new show, is launching on Netflix this weekend. The Last Paradiso is a Netflix original film that's coming online over the next few days. Little Big Women is another Netflix film that's coming online this weekend. And then Malcolm and Marie is yet another Netflix film that's coming online. If you want to get into something a little more salacious, a little more steamy, the 5th season of Summer House launches on Bravo this weekend. It's basically just a bunch of young, attractive people living together in a summer house. You can fill in the blanks yourself. Probably the thing that we're looking forward to the most this weekend is a documentary about the Go-Go's, the pop band from the 80s, the all-girl trailblazing pop band from the 80s. That is airing on Showtime and VOD. A film called Little Fish is also debuting on VOD this weekend. It's about a virus that wipes out people's memories, and it follows a couple that are trying to keep their relationship together when they don't remember anything about each other. Certainly an interesting concept. And then on Amazon Prime, a new movie called Bliss is debuting this weekend. It stars Salma Hayek and Owen Wilson, and they are a couple living in a simulated reality. Sounds interesting and not altogether too different from Little Fish. And then finally, if you're looking for a babysitter so you can actually consume all the awesome stuff we're talking about, the first season of The Snoopy Show debuts on Apple TV.
Music!
Lots of big album releases this week as well. Launching today, the Foo Fighters' new album, Medicine at Midnight. It's been a bit since we got a new release from those guys. Also, The Weeknd has a new album coming out. Well, kind of new. It's actually called The Highlights, and it's a greatest hits compilation of some of his best songs. Obviously, he's been in the news a lot lately because he is performing at halftime of the Super Bowl. A couple more under-the-radar picks. A band called Slow Thigh has a new album coming out called Nothing Great About Britain. It's the debut album for the band, and so far its Metacritic rating is in the mid-8s, which would lead you to believe it's pretty good. And then finally, The Weather Station. Its new album is called Ignorance, and its Metacritic right now is sitting at 90. So definitely check that one out.
Sports.
This is the biggest weekend of the year in sports. Why? Because it's Super Bowl weekend. But there's a bunch of other stuff to watch in addition to that 3-hour window that you're going to set aside on Sunday. On Friday night in the NBA, the Celtics play the Clippers, which should be a great game. And then on Saturday, the Nets square off against the Sixers in a battle of two of the better Eastern Conference teams. If you're into golf, and I know a lot of people may be getting into things that they didn't think they enjoyed during the pandemic, the Waste Management Phoenix Open and the Saudi Invitational go all weekend long. And then if you're into hockey, like I am, the biggest game of the weekend is undoubtedly tonight when the Bruins head to Philadelphia to take on the Flyers, two of the top teams in the East. And then, of course, on Sunday, it's Super Bowl 55. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Kansas City Chiefs. Vegas is saying that the Chiefs are favored by 3 points, and I am going to make a pick for this game. I hate to say it. I hate Tom Brady. I definitely hate the Patriots, but I'm going with the Buccaneers in this one, particularly if you're planning on having some fun betting on the game because you're getting 3 points. I honestly think the Buccaneers win the game outright. I think they have the better defense. I do think the Chiefs have a slightly better offense, but the Chiefs are beat up on the offensive line. They've lost some players to injury and COVID. I think Tom Brady does it again. I think the Buccaneers win Super Bowl 55. And then a final note about the Super Bowl, The Weeknd is performing the halftime show, if you haven't figured it out by all the commercials by now. And if you just want to check that out, you can probably tune in around 7:45 Eastern. And don't forget, kickoff of the game is at 6:30 Eastern.
Esports.
As we said, it's Super Bowl weekend, and Madden NFL 21 is getting in on the fun with its biggest tournament of the year, the Club Championship. The finals are actually going down today. So if you want to see some of the best Madden players duke it out for a huge prize pool, check it out. It starts off at around 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is the Counter-Strike Global Offensive Blast Premier Spring Series. It's just one of the stops on the biggest Counter-Strike esports tour, and the event this weekend is worth $150K. Also going down this weekend is the PUBG Global Invitational. It's actually been going on for a while now, but this is sort of the latest leg of that esports event with a $3.5 million prize pool. All right, that's it for the first episode of 3 Night Weekend. Once again, we want to thank Marcus Beer for joining us on the show. And as we said, you can find him on Twitter at AnnoyedGamer, or you can find his Twitch channel at twitch.tv/IamBeer. We want to thank all our patrons who make this show possible. And if you're interested in supporting the show, head to patreon.com/sifted and pledge at least $4 per month, and you'll be able to get this show every Friday morning when it's really, really essential. Join us next week when we talk to the creator of God of War, David Jaffe. So thanks for checking out the debut episode of 3 Night Weekend, and remember that every weekend is a 3 Night Weekend.